Do the 49ers need an offensive coordinator or a head coach? Because the idea here is that, like, if they were to hire an offensive coordinator and give him the play calling duties, then Shanahan could focus more on being a head coach, and maybe he'd be a better head coach. Or maybe he's just not head coach material. Maybe he's just an elite offensive coordinator and needs oversight.
What the sample showed us in the past few years.
Lions fired Matt Patricia. I'd like to take some credit for that. I'd like to take some freaking credit for that. I would just ruin him on Thanksgiving. All right, keep going. Sorry about that.
Well, no problem. Actually, I'm happy. Lions. So, as the sample shows us, I don't think that Kyle Shanahan is a head coach material.
I'd have to agree.
Because
why?
What I think the perfect head coach is, he can motivate his team all the way. He can make them execute plays, even though he is not a coordinator. Maybe he is working with the coordinators, but he is the reason why players like to play American football, why they like to play for the organization, why they like to play for their teammates. And of course, sometimes the head coach has to take all the blame for losses. And have you seen Kyle Shanahan anytime take blame for a loss?
No.
Or or can you just say just a single time when we saw that Kyle Shanahan motivated his team, as Pete Carroll did sometimes, for example? I don't like Pete Carroll, but you have to admit that he's a pretty good head coach.
Oh, dude, he's one of the better head coaches.
Yep.
He never has a losing season. He's extremely upbeat, and he was that way at USC too. He has a exuberance and an upbeatness that makes football players like coming to work. Yep. They love play. Everyone loves playing for the Seahawks. It's fun. So yeah, that's one of the things that makes him a good head coach, not just a coordinator. He's a head coach. Yeah.
So what I think of is I would go with a new head coach, Ray, and I would try to just keep Kyle Shanahan, or if it is not possible, to move Kyle Shanahan back into offensive coordinator, I would just hire an offensive coordinator and let Kyle Shanahan do the things that a head coach should do for a team. Okay, it's a trend right now that a head coach is an offensive coordinator as well, but I don't think that it is the best way for these teams, like for the 49ers. And I don't think that all the head coaches right now are head coach materials. And that's why I think that McVay did a way better job than Kyle Shanahan in the past few years.
You're right. Like, the trend is just hire an offensive coordinator. You like a guy's scheme. Well, that makes him a head coach, apparently. It makes him a leader. It doesn't. There's been so many examples throughout the decades of coordinators failing. But McVay hasn't failed. McVay is a leader. He has definite leadership qualities. He's upbeat. Yeah. He's positive. I think players like to play for him. Kyle is way too loyal to his scheme. He'll never criticize his scheme. It's always the player's fault, not the scheme. The scheme works. And I think he's just too, his style of, players always say they appreciate him because he keeps it real. And I think he can motivate players because when they think that his plays work all the time, like, hey, we're going to win because Kyle's so smart. But there's nothing, he can't motivate you with his words. And I think he can kind of bring you down with his attitude. He's one of the more negative head coaches in the league. I mean, from what we've heard, the way he talks to players is, you messed up here, you messed up here, this was the wrong read, this was the wrong technique, I saw this, don't think I didn't see this. And I think the person who gets it the most is the quarterback. Every week, why'd you make this throw? How many times have I told you this is the read? To the point where the quarterback, I think, eventually loses all confidence. And we've talked about with Kyle, he bounces around. He's never been with one quarterback more than 3 years, 2 years. Yep. You know, RG3 was just never recovered mentally, physically. And Jimmy Garoppolo, he may never recover either. I feel a little bad for Jimmy. I mean, imagine how much criticism he's taken behind closed doors from Kyle Shanahan, who can't win a freaking game without him. So I don't know if he has a head coach's temperament. A head coach, here's the thing. When you ask Robert Saleh what makes Pete Carroll good and what makes Russell Wilson good, Robert Saleh worked there. He said, you know what? Wilson and Carroll both have an unbelievable positive outlook that is unmatched. They are always sure they're going to win, and that positivity is infectious. And Jim Harbaugh didn't have that, which is why I think he may not have the longevity of a Pete Carroll. Kyle doesn't have that. He's young. He could switch up his approach, but Robert Saleh does have it, which is why I think he's going to be a good head coach, not because of what he does as a coordinator, although that's important. He has the leadership ability that Pete Carroll has, and Kyle Shanahan needs to develop.
Yeah, and he has the perfect temperament for a head coach. I think that maybe positional coaches like linebacker coaches or like offensive or defensive line coaches can become much easier good head coach, and it's mainly because the much more personal contact with the players that they have, and that's the thing that I think of. But of course, I've never been a head coach for an NFL team or something like that, so I don't have the experience. But what I see from the heart of Europe is that.
Yeah, the thing that I think is Shanahan's problem is he's still trying to be a genius. Like, I don't think Sean McVay is trying to be a genius. He's trying to win. And I think you don't want to necessarily get caught up in the genius thing, because now it's like you're pushing the ball, like the big boulder up the hill, and you finally get there and it rolls down the other side. And you're constantly trying to prove yourself to be this wonderkind or something. And you're not. I mean, it's like you're constantly mad that you're not fulfilling the expectations that you put on yourself. And so what you end up being is an angry, bitter, negative coach. And what I would compare that to is look at Josh McDaniels. You know, genius, supposed to be, got a head coaching job at 32, genius, and flopped. Had some success at first, very smart guy, but people hate him.
Yeah.
He is not a people person, and he ended up losing a bunch of games in a row, getting fired, going back, not head coach material. Matt Patricia, genius, supposed to be a rocket scientist. You know, he is a rocket scientist.
Yeah, I know.
Studied under Bill Belichick. Goes to Detroit. People freaking hate him. No one wants to play for that guy. Fired. I'm sure he'll go back to New England and do a great job as a coordinator. But there's something about these geniuses who are bitter, angry, negative people. I'm not saying Kyle's bitter, angry, and negative, but he's salty. He's very salty. He's kind of like John Gruden, who's having a good year this year. But John Gruden, you know he's gonna ruin Derek Carr eventually. I mean, he doesn't like Derek Carr. Derek Carr knows that. It's just a matter of time.
Yep.
So yeah, maybe they should just make Robert Saleh the head coach.
Yeah.
It seemed like they have a good working relationship.
I'd be happy.
You're like, you know what, Kyle, keep your paycheck. Yeah. But now he's a co-head coach. Now
yeah.
he addresses the team
from tomorrow.